Remember street photography? Hi, my name is Mike. I'm a photographer and I have a podcast, I guess. And this channel is for that trip. I am going to get a couple things done. There's a couple things I'd like to do with the 20 years I got left on this rock. I want to take some pictures. I want to go some places and take some pictures, meet some people, shake some hands, say hi. I don't really care about cameras. Ironically, it's not that type of party. I am a picture person. I'm not a camera person. I'm not here to sell you gear. I'm not here to show you the 10 best ways to be a beginner photographer. That's already been well covered. And thank you for the folks who are doing it because I had to learn digital photography a few years ago. I've been taking pictures my entire life, drawing, um, copying drawings I saw from comic books as a kid, trying to draw pictures of horses, and then graduating to the Kodak disc camera, uh, walking around the streets of New York as a child. I was a 12, 13, 14-year-old child taking pictures. Unfortunately, I didn't keep any of those. And fast forwarding 40 something years later, I decided to start selling my work. And that's what today is. Today is the start of that. I thoroughly enjoy taking pictures. It's something I've always done. Excuse me. Something I've always done in the meantime. If I had to wait for a couple hours for someone to show up, if it was a 2 hours between appointments or a layover on a bus or a plane or a train, I would just walk around and take pictures. I had a little Kodak disc camera in the beginning, and then I had a film camera at some point. Whatever camera I had in my hand, It was never about the camera to me. It was about going taking pictures. And I never really even developed any of them. Like, unfortunately, I have some, but very few. Unfortunately, but here I am, 52 years old, I think, and I'm going to try and start selling some of these pictures. And I'm going to try and leave a time capsule with pictures. There's a few projects. No, there's two projects I want to do. One here locally, and then one that involves um, a lot of ground to cover. But I'm noticing that there are a few people that are passing away, and I'd like to get their picture for posterity's sake. So in 1,000 years, maybe somebody will find an SD card or a box of prints and know that we existed. I am thoroughly impressed with the history of photography, something I had never looked up before I started this. Finding out that Martin Luther King's photographer was a spy, that that all these pictures I looked at in National Geographic magazine, they are quite the story behind most of them. But one thing people don't know is the story of the photographer that took the picture. All most people really care about is the camera. Ooh, what camera did he use? Oh, what phone do you have? Oh, the new iPhone 13 has a great camera. The best camera is the camera you have in your hand. Um, some of the fuzziest pictures are the greatest in the world. So that's what I'm looking to do. And that's what this is. This is me just talking about life in general. So if you're looking to find out what gear to buy, it's not me. I'm not a pitch man. The YouTube is more than full of enough pitchmen, corporate pitchmen for photography. It's just not who I am. I like those folks. Those are good folks. They tell me which stuff to buy when I need to buy something, but that's just not what I do. I'm here for the story. I'm here for uh, leaving a lasting impression. That's what this is about. And the first thing on the agenda is street photography. Now, over on TikTok, I subscribe to a lot of channels on pedestrian dignity. I've just recently gone back to being a pedestrian. I had my car. I got rid of it. It's not something I never used it, so it had to go. Eventually, it sat so long they stole a converter off it, and I had no idea that they even did. I moved over to van life, and the secondary and tertiary forms of transportation really kind of cover everything. I don't really need a car anymore. So van life is a huge part of this. And being a pedestrian, again, is a huge part of this. But as I'm a pedestrian, one thing I love to do is go out street shooting. It's fantastic practice. The bread and butter is the portraits, the headshots, stock photography, things like that. But one thing I do to exercise, people who have firearms, they go to shooting ranges and they practice so they can be better at it. Police, military, so forth and so on, private individuals. But my range, my shooting range, shooting gallery is the street. That's where I practice with ISO and f-stops and different shutter speeds and things like that. That's where I perfect my skill. But I'm noticing in the last couple decades that there is less and less happening. Like, I get a couple good things here and there, but it's nowhere near the hit rate of the 80s and the 90s, before we all started sitting in these cars for a third of our lives. And I think that's it. I think cars have ruined street photography. Now, it doesn't apply to big cities. It doesn't really apply to big cities. It doesn't really apply to metropolitan areas where people do walk, like Japan. Sometimes in Japan, you can't really even drive in Japan. So what really are you doing? If you can't get a good street shot, because the setting is there, the events are there, but the people are no longer there. At least in this country, and that's just my rambling. And it's unfortunate, because you can go out and take pictures of buildings and architecture, but the emotion, the human factor, is not there without a person. So what do you do about that? Not a whole lot you can do. I think what I am going to start doing is I'm going to go start taking pictures of the interactions or the lack of people in street photography. I think that may be a good project. I'll give that a shot. But there's nobody out there anymore. Street photography is nowhere near what it used to be. And in addition to that, people don't dress like they used to. I mean, you got men with their pants with their literal butt exposed. And women, don't. It's not like the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and a little bit of the 90s, where people used to get dressed up to go outside. People used to, if they wanted to be outside, they looked like they wanted to be outside. And if you came outside, if in the black community, if you came outside with some rollers in your hair, they was going to talk about you. Or they was going to ask you to get back in your house and get yourself right, and then come back outside again. As a man growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, don't get caught slipping, because they're gonna call you out. You're gonna get called out, 100%. Thing in focus. Yeah. A little bit before 2 feet is where the string ends, where this knot is, and that's where hopefully I'm focused on the eye. But that was the thing, and you were able to get pictures of women going to church in their Sunday hats and men dressed up to go to a concert. But that's just not a thing anymore. Now, it's a good year if you get 3 good catches. It's unfortunate because that is on a social level that is detrimental because we're not out engaging each other and sharpening our edges on each other. We're not out. And when we are out, it's road rage. That's the only time that we get out of those cars is to spend money, eat food, or fight each other. That's kind of it lately. And that's sad. That's really sad. But hopefully one day. But some of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bus somewhere. This is a school bus. I had an RV before. We'll talk about that at some point. But the school bus was always the be all to end all. 38 feet, diesel motor. That's about all I know about it. I don't know much about heavy duty trucks at all. But I'm learning. I'm learning like you have to start them when they're cold. Things like that. I figure if you're going to be a photographer, the pictures aren't going to come to you. You have to go to where the pictures are. And I'd like to go to where the pictures are. But I'd also not like to not stay in hotels. And I'd also like to stop somewhere like there's a lot. I live in New Mexico. I'm going to do most of my traveling in New Mexico. I have no desire as a van lifer to travel the country past, not at 50 years old. If I have to do any traveling outside of the state, it's going to be on an airplane. New Mexico's big enough. New Mexico's like, it's not Texas big, but it's like, I would say that it's 6 to 7 hours east to west and maybe 7 to 8 hours north to south. It's pretty big. And there's a lot to see. It's Chaco Canyon. There's Jeffrey Epstein's place. He has a place here. I got to go take a picture of that. There's Los Alamos, White Sands. There's Sandia Labs. There's so much to see here. New Mexico is such a great state, but there's nobody here, and that's why the crime stats are the way they are. But it's not half as bad as you think it is. It's nowhere near New Jersey levels. It's nowhere near LA levels. The numbers are bad because the population is low. If you have 2 people in a room and one of them robs the other, that's 100% crime rate. You have 10 people in a room and 3 of them rob the other 7, then yeah, it's a high crime rate. So yeah, of course the numbers look like they do, but they're nowhere near reality. But I'm going to travel the state in the bus. That's the plan. And travel the country to do some of the projects as necessary, likely in a plane or a bus. I can't imagine. I might drive to California, but driving back to Jersey to do the big project, pass. Unless I'm going to be out there for a year. If I go back to Jersey for a year, in New York for a year, yeah, okay, fine, I'll take the bus. But I'm not going to travel out there just to be out there for a week. That doesn't make any sense. So maybe like 2027, drive out to Jersey for a year, 2027 to 2028. I like that idea. Maybe get some good street stuff out there. If you want good street stuff, you got to travel. And where I live in New Mexico, near Espanola and Albuquerque and Los Lunas and Belen, which were amazing street photography towns at one point. But now everybody in these small towns are in their cars. And it's sad. Sad but true. And the Hispanic community 30 years ago, 40 years ago, used to get dressed up. Now, I hate to sound old, but that's it. The kids don't get dressed up anymore, and they all sort of look alike with the same mushroom haircut or wearing the hood indoors. But thank you for joining in, because this is where the journey begins.